to our meeting. Thanks, man.
I don't need it in the paper. It's just hold it till next meeting. Are we ready?
So Jeremy gives us the
He gave
thumbs
me a thumbs up.
up. I guess we're ready.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, and thank you all for being here tonight. And we will start off with, if everybody will stand, we will say the pledge. Just a reminder, there is a sign-in if you would like to sign in up front. And do we have any revisions?
No, we do not.
So we will start off with our recognitions. First, we have student and all-state band.
I don't know, is Christopher here? I don't think Christopher made it today, but I do want to go ahead and recognize Christopher for his selection in the KMEA All-State Band. Mr. Bowles just sent me a message just a minute ago saying he was not able to be here, but he did want me to make sure that everybody knew what a special honor this is for Chris. And what happened is that Chris, of course, we have students every year participate in All-State Band, but this year Chris made 5th chair in the All-State Symphonic Band, which is the highest placement of any student in the Estill County High School's history. And that was out of a couple hundred trumpet players that sought a spot on that band in the All-State Band. He was 5th in the state as far as the 5th best trumpet player in the state of Kentucky, which is a huge honor. And he'll be performing at the Kentucky All-State Symphonic Band at the KMAA conference in February. And I hate that Chris is not able to be with us today, but again, that is the highest honor, and I believe he is the first student that we've ever had that's participated or been a member of the Symphonic Band. We've had others that's been a member of the All-State Band, but this is a great recognition for Chris. So I just want to make sure that that was read in the minutes. And Sam, if you don't care, I'll let you take that to him. I guess we'll just continue to roll.
Absolutely.
Next, I would like to ask Mr. Samuel Adams to come up. And we got recognition or got notification here just the other day that Sam has been recognized as the KMEA High School Teacher of the Year in the state of Kentucky. And Sam, of course, is, I think, in your 3rd year with us. And he came to us and he's worked with the band, and he's also directed choir and started a guitar program, which has been a huge success at both the high school and middle school. And I think in part the guitar program that he started is what led to being recognized as Teacher of the Year. So we're very fortunate to have you, Sam, and thank you for this honor and what you do for our kids here in Estill County. And I'd like to present you also with the Medal of Excellence. I look like I'm 10 feet tall. Or you look like you're about 5. I'll let you give this to Chris. Thank you very much. Thank you. Keeping you busy. Keep moving.
Keep moving.
All right. let's start off with our mountain movers, and let's, our community mountain mover is Yvette here. Miss Young, of course, is the owner of Playtime Daycare in Irvin, and this marks the 20th anniversary of Playtime Daycare. And our daycare programs are so important, you know, in your school system when, you know, having good daycare for families, especially those that are working in our school system. And she's been a community partner now for several years. I think she was nominated by one of our staff at the middle school for the work that she does, and we'll make sure that she gets this certificate and her Medal of Excellence. But again, congratulations to Ms. Young. And I think our other two mountain movers are here, so John, if you don't care, I'm gonna let you want LW do this one? Okay. And this is Miss LaDonna Johnson, who's our classified mountain mover. LaDonna, if you'll come forward. She's worked in the Estill County Schools Finance Office for 20 years. And LaDonna says she's been bookkeeping all of her life. She likes learning things new, and her job offers new challenges daily. And I know that every third or fourth Thursday of every month, she's the most appreciated person in the school district when those checks, when those paychecks go out. So LaDonna, we're very thankful for what you do for our schools and doing to your recognition.
That's why I wanted this.
And our final recognition goes to Mr. Stephen Willis. And I think last time you got left out, why don't you come forward this time?
She can stand on the...
She can stand. It will work out if she'll stand up there. But Stephen, of course, is our principal at South Irvin. And he's been a valuable member of our school system since he came to work here. Stephen's a Estill County High School graduate, and Stephen would tell you that he would have been one of the kids that this day and time we talk about kids that would have been left behind, that sort of lost his way in life and didn't go to school right off the bat, but after working in a factory for a long time and finally decided to go back into education. And I tell you what, to know what kind of man Stephen is, all you have to know is what he did last year when he stepped into South Irvin and in a very tough situation, and stepped in over there with those preschool kids and provided a stable environment for them after the tragedy of losing Mr. Sims. And I'm very appreciative for what you did for our kids, and I know that you've got many years left in our school system. So thank you, sir. And here is the Medal of Excellence for a job well done. Thank you. And one last recognition, I'd like to ask our 5 board members, if they would, to come down in front. And I'd like to recognize them, all of you all, with a certificate today. Guys, let me be the first to tell you that school board members have a lot of things that they have to deal with, and there's not a whole lot of thanks in the job that they have to perform. You don't see anybody knocking down the doors to run for school board a lot anymore because of the pressures that's there, especially the pressures that's been put on our boards because of the failure of state government to do what they need to do to fund our schools. And this board, we've worked hand in hand together, and I'm very proud to be a part of this school system, and I thank them for the opportunity to work with them every day. And guys, I know it's not a lot, but I would like to present you all with a certificate. This is recognition from the Kentucky School Boards Association for the job you all do. And of course, you'll get you $75 check here sometime next week for this meeting. But come let everybody get a picture of you with your certificate. And again, thank you all for everything you do. We will have, we will have glossy 8-10s of that available after the meeting for a small.
Just talking about myself, not the rest of them.
Thank you all again.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have our nutrition and physical activity report.
Wendy, you wanna?
You don't want to come up front.
Well, it's basically the same, not a whole lot changed in the school program.
The new Secretary Purdue did keep the sodium level intact where it was now instead of lowering it again, which was wonderful. But everything else is about the same. This year, in our lunch federal reimbursement, we received $993,417. And we served 304,334 meals. I always get confused when I say big numbers. Our average daily participation was $17.98, which is a little bit of increase from the year before. Let's see. Our breakfast, our reimbursement was $372,169. We served 180,816 breakfast meals, and our participation in breakfast actually went down a little bit this year, but we're working on trying to bring it back up. It's still not as low as it used to be. We're at 44%, we was at 32%, so we've come up. Our average, if you look on the target on the nutrient analysis, you can see the target calorie ranges and kind of where our actual ranges average is for our meals for our kids. So we fall within our average or our target ranges for the calories. We're within our sodium guidelines and our fat, and we have no trans fat. Of course, we have our physical education program that provides physical education to the children, like they always have, and I mean that's kind of about it. You have any questions?
This is a report that you all are required to approve every winter.
Yeah, we do it yearly, every year after the end of the year. It's a calendar year, not a physical year, and so we send it in. I have to submit this to the State Department.
So we do need your all's approval on this to submit it, but
I make a motion, we approve the nutrition and physical activity.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Too much you talk.
So I tried to shrink it. I'm getting a little smarter.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have to approve the draft budget.
of course, on the 4th, we had a work session with the draft budget, and I know a couple of you wasn't able to be here. But we basically went through the budget and what, of course, thank you all. The draft budget is just the first step in trying to initiate a budget for the coming school year. Usually, it's a budget that you really pretty much roll things over and just try to look at your as-is state, where you're at and where you need to get to. We went ahead and what my instructions were to Angie is to roll everything forward, just like if every single position in this school district was back, what this budget would look like. And as you can tell, if you looked closely at the numbers, and as we talked about that night, if you roll everything over exactly as it is, our contingency will go from about $2 million to about 1.2, 1.3. And of course, that's just based on current information that we already have. Then, of course, you had the release of the governor's budget this week. Which of course we've been told up front that get ready, the governor's budget was going to be pretty devastating hit. And we're still in the process of analyzing that budget, but if if the budget went through exactly as the governor approved or wants, or what he presented, let's say, I'll be honest with you, we'll have to make some very drastic cuts. I mean, cuts that we don't even want to talk about making. We'll be lucky to stay within the 2% contingency. And listen, we're one of the districts that's fortunate. We're fortunate that you all done the work that you've done over the last 3 years by cutting $1.3 million out of the budget. If we had not have done that, we would be in big time trouble. I don't fully expect that budget to pass. I've been told by members of the legislature in meetings that just take a deep breath. What the governor's going to present is going to be pretty bad, but it won't be anywhere close to that. So really, this draft budget is just meeting a timeline to get it in, because the budget that will really be impactful to us will be the budget in May, which of course will be our tentative budget moving forward in the next school year.
And we'll know more by then too.
We should know more by April 15th, when the legislature is through meeting. But in that draft budget, everything rolled forward as it is. You can see that the changes in personnel, the salaries in personnel, of course, just takes into account the step increases, because there are employees that get step increases due to years' experience. There's also some increased dollars in that budget to account for if something happens with the retirement system. We probably have over $500,000 of liability in sick leave buyout if our employees that could retire decided to. So I don't want you to get too concerned about the budget, but I do want you to realize that, hey, we've got some things to do. And after that budget meeting, we did talk about some parameters, guys, about school staffing policies and how we need to look at those, and with the understanding that we no longer have the luxury to have additional teachers for cap size and those types of things. We're going to have to really look at tightening our belt, and we're going to have to look at tightening our belt in every department that we can. So the 5th month has ended, so I will start work on those staffing policies. I will bring to you in February district and school staffing policies that will put us in a position to where I can make the cuts necessary if we have to make the cuts. And we're gonna have to make some cuts. That's just bottom line. It's just the fact of the matter, when you're facing the retirement issue and you're facing the fact that we're down 50 students again, we're gonna have to make some cuts, and we knew that. And we're planning for about $600,000 worth of cuts by the time you get to that May budget. So I don't know if, and I will say this, the one piece of information in the governor's budget that will be devastating is the reduction in transportation funding. That'll be about a $650,000 decrease in funding for us if transportation is not funded at the current level, which is only about 54 cents on every dollar. We're already, the district is already paying almost $1 million for our transportation cost. It's not quite that. It's about $850,000 to $900,000 is what we pay out of SEEK allocation on that. That's above and beyond the transportation budget. They're talking about another 60 or 70% cut, and I think it was 62% to be exact. And if that happens, I mean, that's over $600,000 for us. I don't want to sound the alarm bells, but I will tell you that it's going to be very important moving forward to see how our legislature moves forward. And a lot of cuts in state funding, state grant programs, and those are people that are in those jobs or people that will have to be moved to other positions if those jobs are lost, which means it's going to have a domino effect in terms of teaching positions and those types of things. So don't want you to panic, But I can tell you right now, our legislature is going to have to step up, and there's tough decisions to be made, and school systems, we're not rolling in the money that the governor says that we're rolling in either. He has some very inaccurate information, and I can share that information with you all. I'm more than happy to share it with the press. In terms of administrative costs, the numbers that he rolled out on administrative costs in these school districts is nowhere near to being correct. The contingency and carry forward balance that we have, you're suggested to have minimum is 2%, but it's suggested that you be somewhere around 5 to 6. We've been at 9, about 8 to 9, and we were trying to get to 10. And of course, that was before we had facility money that was coming aboard. I mean, we don't have to be at 9 or 10%. We want to spend our money to impact children, but we don't need to be at the 2% level. You're one major thing away from something happening and you being that you can't pay your bills. You can't make payroll. And I don't know what some of these other school districts in Eastern Kentucky are going to do, quite honestly. We've got about 10 or 11 that's broke right now. And with the changes that the governor's talking about, you're going to see, if this continues, you're going to see forced mergers of school districts. They're going to have to. There going to be no way that they're going to be able to make it. And I just don't know that as a school board and as a school district and as your superintendent, we're almost back to the levels we were at in 1990 when 66 school districts sued the state of Kentucky for a lack of adequate funding for education. And we're almost at that level again. And I'm telling you, that may be coming down the pike if they don't get their house in order. So I'll answer any questions if you have it, but that's just pretty much an update in terms of where we're at.
Well, the last special call meeting that we had, we went through the draft budget with a fine-tooth comb, and I think that we had some good recommendations from you. I think that we have a good working draft budget, and I think at this point we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in April and go from there. And you were already formulating a plan, a staffing policy, and so I think now it's just a waiting game for us,
I agree.
honestly.
So we will need a motion to approve that draft budget so that we can submit it.
So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve the draft budget.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you all.
Approved. Next on the agenda, we have a facilities update.
Real quick, I think LW had asked for an update on the bonding potential as if the school district continued to lose students at the same clip that we're losing now, and if we move forward in terms of bonding some of these projects, where would we be at? At what point in time could we see an issue? And what I told Mark to do is I said, run the worst case scenario. Let's just say things go totally south, that we continue to lose that number of students from now until all the way through the end of this bonding through 2039, which I think is, that's not what's in the forecast in terms of census numbers. Because right now what we're doing is we're losing about 30 students per class, which is evening us out somewhere between 140 and 150 per class. And there's no indication right now that we're going under that. So we still are looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years of decline. If what's happening right now follows, and it's at the second grade right now, then we would have 6 more years of elementary and middle school and 4 years of high school. So you would see that for the next 10 years. This bonding analysis says, okay, we're going to do that through the next 20 years. We're going to continue to lose 30. There's no indication of that, but I wanted you to see that where it does become a factor if we continue to have this. This also does not take into the account, as we become a smaller school district, the amount of equalization that we receive also goes up. So this does not take into any account any equalization of funding that would come into play. For instance, this past July, due to an equalization increase, you went up about $700,000. That was before the nickel passed. So every 2 years, you get an equalization adjustment. And I told Mark, I said, don't put that in there. I said, leave it level, just where it is. And as you can see, the school district would be in, even under the worst case scenarios, through 2034, I mean, the school district has enough money within the bonding to fund the projects that's there. And again, that is under the worst case scenario of whether or not all these things happen. So just based on Mark's analysis that he feels like that there's really not an issue, but we wouldn't have known what the issue could have been unless we went worst case scenario. Because if I paint you a big rosy picture, and that's what's happened in the retirement systems at times, you know, they paint out here that you're going to get a 9.5% return on your money, and it's not happened all the time. You know, the teacher retirement system over the last 30 years has probably averaged a little over 8% return on their investment, which is some of the highest rates in the nation, but that's not happened in some of those other retirement accounts. So if I'd told him to, hey, let's just pretend that, you know, this is going to go away and everything like that, then, you know, he could have gave us a big rosy picture. But I think what that shows you there, even under the worst of circumstances, I really do believe that you don't have an issue with bonding. Also, just another analysis was this past week, you're getting ready to be asked to approve an SFCC offer of assistance, which is a new offer of assistance, which is going to increase our bonding potential another $600,000 over what we have right now. So there's always going to be those offers of assistance. Now, the governor said that after this one, he has proposed cutting out those SFCC offers of assistance. But now that's been something that's been around since 1990. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But you would still have equalization. So that was just for your all's information. You'd asked for that, LW, and I wanted to get that to you. And again, that is worst case scenario there. If things continue to decline at the rate that they've declined over the last few years, and they never was a stopping point. Also, and there's no action needed on that one. And just a construction update, Ross Tarrant will be here tomorrow. They'll be doing some field verifications on the 2 projects at the middle school and at Estill Springs. They met last week. The mechanical engineers and Ross Tarrant met last week. They were here and met with Todd Reese a couple days before that, so they're in district right now and they're moving towards that April bid date. We're going to know the budget. Right now, equalization is not in the budget, but it's never in the governor's budget. It's not been for the last 10 bienniums. It's always the legislature that puts that in there, but we're aware of it, and we've got a group of, I think there's 22 superintendents that have nickels out there to be equalized, so we're all aware and we're all working the phones. And I'll actually be in Frankfurt at least one day this week coming, and possibly 2, as part of the KEDC consortium. So I'll be in Frankfurt and be meeting with our legislators. So those 2 projects are moving forward. They're moving forward with some design possibilities for the career and tech school at the high school. And I have a phone call with Pamela Moore in the morning at 7:30 a.m. to talk about programming for that facility, moving forward with that. So all three projects right now are moving forward, but there's been no money spent or no final approval on anything.
With that being said about the Career and Tech Center, is our $5.7 million grant in any jeopardy with this proposed budget?
No, as a matter of fact, they've approved it, and the governor wants another $100 million for workforce, which would means that there would be another $100 million worth of projects that would be approved in this. So one of the things that, and you know, when you look at it, I mean, the governor did propose to fund the retirement systems fully. Yeah, I mean, so he does indicate in his budget that the retirement systems have to be funded. And the other thing that he has done since he's been there is made a huge commitment to workforce. And so there's another $100 million that's been proposed for projects for other schools. So I do not see that money's already approved. It's set in an escrow.
So it's already set aside?
It's already set aside, and we're still moving forward with possible additional grant money for that facility as we work with our construction manager on that situation. So, no, I don't see any issues right now.
Okay, thank you.
I'll answer any other questions you all may have, but like I said, Ross Hart, they'll be here in district tomorrow, and I think Todd Reese and I will be meeting with them. I am going to start including Jeremy on some of those discussions. We're going to actually be in a meeting here in the next few weeks in Somerset because next fall we will have to draft a new district facility plan. So what will happen is the middle school and Estill Springs and the Career Tech Center comes off. We'll have to draft the future of what happens with facilities in this district. And because Jeremy's the energy manager and going to be highly involved in some of those discussions, I just think Jeremy is somebody that between myself and of course him will be able to move forward on some of those issues. And of course Felicia is handling the paperwork in the new system that we have to report everything in. I think she's got everything in on the projects that we have. We've not put anything in on the Career Tech Center yet because we've not approved the BG1 yet, and I'm holding off on that until we actually get a sort of an ideal of the programs and how we're going to move forward with that. You might see it in February, no later than March on that facility. I also have a meeting with Judge Williams tomorrow morning to discuss the county's commitment on their $500,000 commitment to that facility. So we're getting everything in place to move forward on those three projects. Hopefully the roof project and the HVAC project will be done before we move the first shovel of dirt on the Career Tech Center. So we'll have no more, hopefully, than we'll not have three projects going on at once. And I know that's a big concern, having so many projects at one time, but I think we'll be able to move forward on schedule as long as we don't end up in school till the middle of June. That's going to be an issue if we continue to miss school days. But any other questions? If not, that's it.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have consent items.
I don't know exactly how many of these you all want to pull out. If there's anything you all see that you want to pull out, I would just point out a couple of things here, and then we've got Courtney Barnes with us to talk to us about the youth development curriculum if you all have any questions about that. But notice in C is the approval of our CDIP, our Comprehensive District Improvement Plan. Ms. Isaacs is here if anybody has any questions about that, but that is a continuation of our, basically our strategic plan for moving our district forward. And that is to be submitted to the state, and it needs your all's approval. If you have any questions, she's here to answer those. I told you about the SFCC offer of assistance. It's a little bit under $40,000, but it will generate an additional $600,000 of bonding potential. And what I've done right now, so you all know, on the BG ones you all approved the other night, we really didn't put the financing wasn't listed in those BG ones. But what I did is I went ahead and approved all of the SFCC money that we currently have. I approved it as part of the Estill Springs project so that we can wipe out all that old money. It's only good for a period of about 8 years. Is it 10 or 8? I think it's 8 too. I think it's only good for 8 years, and we've had some of it for a while, so we're gonna wipe it out on the HVAC project. So this new $600,000 worth of bonding potential we'll be able to use on the Career Tech facility, which will help. That's $600,000 we didn't have last month. So,
Jeff, can I back you up just so?
yes,
I've got a question for Tanya on the CDIP.
okay.
So, how's everything going, Tanya? Are we getting buy-in? Are we seeing progress with this? Is it helping? What's your opinion?
Well, LW, this year is a transition year for the state because we're doing a new accountability system. So because of that, they have kind of given us a little bit of leeway. But at the same time, they pretty much tell us what we have to do, if that makes sense. Where we have to set our goals and our delivery targets and all that based on our test scores. What you're seeing here in our improvement plan is all about our systems work. It really is. We did not put anything in this plan that really we have not been doing for the last year. But you know, with systems, it takes a little while to get everything going. So yes, I feel like we are making improvements, some more than others, but yes, we are moving along. One new goal, you'll notice the very end one talks about transition readiness, where they're asking us to look at those transition times, for example, from 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th, and that was a requirement this year. It's brand new. We are also focusing on our 2nd grade transition to 3rd. So all the activities that you see in here are just really geared around our systems work, which, you know, focuses on making sure we got a handle on what we're seeing in the classroom, our data, making decisions based on that for each one of these goals. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
In a roundabout way?
Roundabout way.
Roundabout way? Yeah.
And you'll see in my superintendent's report on my activities that I've met with all of our principals to discuss the fall semester. That is centered a lot around the winter map data and what our scores are showing on winter map data and what our plans are moving forward into the spring testing period. And there's some things, as she said, LW, and so you all know, there is a transition period. And really, when you get right down to it, is there this overarching state accountability this year? The answer to that's no. But we did not take our foot off the pedal. We just felt like that we continued on with the same delivery targets, the same expectations. Program reviews, for instance, were removed as part of state accountability. I just felt like there's no way that we can have programs out there in our schools that's not being monitored. So in this school district, we're going to monitor program reviews still. We're not going to do the same paperwork that was required before, which was burdensome, really. But we're still going to require them to prove to us and show us evidence that we have good programs in place in music and health and PE and practical living and preschool programs and foreign language programs. Because I think if we just sit back and say, okay, let's wait and see where we end up, we're not going to see improvement. We can't afford to do that because we were already behind the 8 ball, as everybody knows. So we're really trying to keep moving forward. As you know, student growth was removed from the evaluation system, but I'm still holding principals accountable for student growth goals. I think somebody's got to be responsible. And, you know, our principals need to be responsible, and in turn, our principals are responsible. They're gonna be holding, staff members responsible. So, and this plan talks about how do we monitor that? And that's what this is. It's the monitoring piece on doing that.
I would like to say that this plan looks so much different than it ever has before. The previous plans have always been very detailed in nature. This is more of a broad plan, and how we monitor this plan now is done through a 30, 60, 90-day plan, which we submit every quarter to the state in the platform. So that's how they monitor what we say we're going to do in here. That's also how our schools monitor, how we monitor our schools, and that is more of a detailed, everyday, what are we doing kind of thing. And we review that weekly. We have to stay
So
on top of it.
we're utilizing this plan is what you're saying. We're not
Yes.
just doing it to jump through the hoops.
Yes,
and make
that's
plan
what's
for-
different about this plan. Now, I will tell you, you're gonna approve this plan, but when we jump through a hoop and get that done and mark it off, then I'm gonna come to you with another one.
You'd hope
That's
we
how
approve
this one works, okay? So in 3 months, let's say we need to add another activity because we see something we need to address. We're gonna add it, come back to you, and you will approve that, okay? So it's an ongoing kind of document, which is much different than it has been in the past.
They're asking us for a quarterly accounting of what's going on in our district, so you all need to be up on that. You need to know what's going on a quarterly basis, what's going on in
And I
our
would
district.
invite you to our core team meetings anytime you'd like to attend. You really, would be, it would benefit you to come and see how that 30, 60, 90 works. and
Those are
see-
Tuesdays at
Tuesdays at
1.
1 o'clock here at
And if you
Central
can
Office.
ever make it to one of those, it'll be about 3 hours of intense conversation of what's going on in each school. We monitor not only the district, but we also monitor the school plans as well during that time period. And that core team is there every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I'm not there at every meeting, but I'm there probably at least a couple times a month, in that meeting. And one of the things that, because the governor's called out on the fact of talking about administration, again, his numbers are off and he's not being guided correctly in that. I think he probably should have went to a little bit greater length to find out, hey, is this really accurate information? And I don't think that he did that. But we're also going to make a renewed effort, and I can tell you that our district office people are in our schools. They're in our schools every week. And our central office is only as good as the help that we can provide to our schools. If not, if any of our supervisors, and there's 3 of them in here tonight, 4 of them in here tonight, we're missing 1, I think. If any of our supervisors, if they're not in the schools, helping our schools, we don't need them employed in our district. I mean, that's what we're here for. And so we're even going to make a renewed effort to make sure that we're out there in our schools, helping our principals monitor what's need to be monitored. We're a lot further along right now this time than we were last year. We'll be further along this time the following year. And so we'll continue to report to you all now on a quarterly basis.
Mr. Bailey, would you all like that 30, 60, 90 at the quarter? Would you like me to report that? Or how?
I think it wouldn't be bad for them to have it. Hopefully, if you all could really, if you could come up with a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And Tanya, I think when she sends those notices out, I think you all get them now by email. And it will be better for you there.
Yeah.
Because if we come here and do a 30, 60, 90 during a board meeting, it's going to take us probably 45 minutes, an hour, and still not be able to do it justice.
It would probably just be an information piece if we,
Yeah.
But if you don't understand how it works and what it's really saying, then it's hard to understand.
And all you have to do is just show up. You don't even have to tell her you're coming. I mean, we're going to be there anyway, but if you want to, let her know you're
Where's it
coming.
at?
In the old boardroom.
Training room, boardroom.
And it's really informative in terms of where we're at, in terms of you gotta have a plan to keep moving forward, and this is our plan as we move forward.
I'm glad to see that we're having some discussion about where we are with our students and with testing. I know I hear comments out in the public a lot that we talk a lot about facilities and building and doing all these things, and people are glad to hear us talk about the educational process. So I'm real excited that you're reporting this. And I guess that my one question is, I know that you all have spent a lot of time and effort in trying to standardize things and trying to pull all schools so that we're all teaching toward common goals and with common outcomes. And I guess the question that I had, and we've asked these questions before, is just about buy-in from the staff. And are you still seeing a lot of resistance from staff? And if you are, what are we doing to address that? Because that's what's going to make this successful.
I feel like that we are getting buy-in. I do feel like that the momentum has changed. And of course, you're always gonna have a few naysayers out there. I mean, I think that's normal. But I think the majority of our teachers understand the process now and why we are doing things the way we are doing them, the systems we have in place, because they're beginning to see that it's working. Right, and so they understand the process, and I will use the middle school, for example. The middle school really has their processes down, and teachers know how to function within that system. And so now when something comes up, they know where that fits in and how they need to go about doing that. So I do feel like that our district is making progress, and that the majority of our teachers are on board. Would you agree? I agree.
Are you seeing difference in results between the ones that buy in and the ones that don't? Are we comparing that data? Like your class of fourth graders and your class of fourth graders, Lisa, don't buy in and you do. Are we seeing differences?
We compare, we look at that. Yeah.
If there are differences, are you making them aware there's differences?
I'm not for sure how the principals handle that, but we address it with principals. I know there are discussions and some good heart-to-heart talks about that. But, you know, there are ways that we do that. We try to partner them with people that are on board and, you know, try to do things, try to figure out why they're not on board, but,
They are sharing class data.
yes.
In their PLCs, they are sharing class data.
Yes.
Because sometimes if you have one not buying in and they see a positive result from somebody that has, it may hit them too.
They're looking at common assessments, like, let's say the fifth grade team gives a math assessment. They're coming together as a group and looking at the math assessment, everybody's results. So,
So
you
we're
know,
comparing your class results to your class
I'm looking
results,
at 5 teachers.
and nobody wants to be the worst.
And, you know.
Yeah.
and
That's good, that's
If we
positive.
have a class average of 65, and then we have a class average of 85, then, you know, the discussion is, how did your class
Good.
only score 65 and mine scored 85? That happens in the PLC work, the professional learning communities, and that's happening at every school. Yeah,
Good.
that's a part of that process.
That's,
And those conversations are starting to move. They're starting to move some of those people that their scores are lagging.
well, we have to help each other. We'll
That's right.
never-
Right.
Never reach our common goal.
Right.
This is not a got you thing. I mean, this is not a got you
No.
thing, but what this is, we have to have, you know, we've done a lot of work in this district about growth mindset. And, you know, growth mindset is that it's okay to fail. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, but as long as you keep trying. You know, it took Thomas Edison, 1,000 times before he created the light bulb. But those 1,000 times was all learning steps to get to where he was able to do what he did. So we not only have to have that growth mindset with our staff and our leadership team, it's got to be with our principals, it's got to be with our staff. And it's okay for a teacher to try something, but if they see data that it's not working with their kids, then what we've got to do is have that culture in place that they're willing to ask. That they're willing to ask, what did you do?
Then we in turn take that, we go another step, another level. And so teachers have that conversation, and principals are in there sometimes, but not all the time. Then principals bring that data to a district PLC, in which we look at the work together and give them feedback on what we're seeing. Because sometimes as a principal, you know, you can overlook things at times. Sometimes they don't brag on themselves enough because there are some good things, really good things. And so, if you ask any principal, they're gonna say, you know, the time I have with my critical friends that give me good feedback is a plus for me, because then I can go back and have a different way of looking at it at the school level. So we do that too, 2 times a month. So that, there again, that's part of that system that we have in place to try to catch things and be proactive instead of reactive.
Thank you.
I just want- Go ahead.
No, thank you for addressing that, and I think that people are gonna be glad to hear and to know more about this. I have a lot of questions about these things a lot. What are we doing to move our test scores? What are we doing, you know, to make sure that we see an improvement? So I'm excited about this, and thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
And just so you'll know, some of the data that we're sharing, and I know some of you will be glad to hear this because you've heard things along this line, that the next data that we're going to look at in a district PLC is our discipline data. We're going to look at our PBIS data because classroom management is very important in terms of what's going on in classrooms and where we're at with our PBIS program in terms of implementing it, which now I think we're pretty much to the point that all of our schools are have either finalized their PBIS program in their school, or they're close to doing so. So we're going to look at that discipline data, and we're going to have conversations around that. So it's a good process. It's a process that the core team takes very seriously. We have to take it very seriously to see movement, and I want to commend you all tonight on this conversation, because these are the conversations that we need to have in terms of, you know, building facilities is important. Renovating facilities, all those things are important, but the education our kids are receiving every day, that's the most important thing that we're doing. So this was a good conversation on that one particular piece. Let me real quick, and Courtney's here if you all have any questions about the youth development curriculum, but at our middle school, and that's to address some a need that we're seeing through our county health department. And Courtney, I don't know if you just want to say something to them real quick, and if they got a question.
The health department has the opportunity to have some grant money to provide a curriculum at the middle school called Positive Potential. It's through abstinence funding, and the curriculum is to kind of give teens skills to make healthy choices. It's kind of like life skills, and we talk about character building and relationships, and we talk about careers too. I've already had training on the curriculum, and it is an evidence-based curriculum that fits part of what is supposed to be taught for health as part of their health and PE class. It's a 5-day curriculum, and I can teach it in any class. It doesn't have to be in health. I could go into social studies or English or some other area, but it's something that the health department would provide free of charge. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Estill County has some pretty high rates of teen pregnancy right now. Something that had gone down for a long time and has kind of come back up. And so that's one of the reasons that this is something that we can take advantage of.
And I think you're even going to, you and Erica are going to work sort of to, we've not had this program in a while, so we're either going to carry a little bit into the high school a little bit.
We can, that's something
I just think that we need to sort of try to catch up, but she's been working with Miss Williams, and I think it will be a very valuable program. Anybody have any questions for her about that?
You said this was 5 days. Are you doing it 1 day a week or for 5 days straight? Do you have any
Either
say?
way, it's easy, doesn't matter. Kentucky River District Health Department, which is about 10 counties, they've been offering this program for quite a few years, and she does it differently every school.
Okay.
they're gonna get with Andrea, I think, and just set the schedule once it's approved. And the only other thing on there for you alls is the Drive Alive program. That's just basically the driver license program provided through state police. They're gonna be now coming into our building, keep our kids from having to go elsewhere. We just have to sign an MOA with them that allows them to come in and use our facility every other month or something like that. And, other than that, that's it, unless y'all have any other questions on consent.
And we are going, on your program, we are going to make sure they have a parent permission slip, like it says in here. They can opt out of it if parents have religious or other issues.
Yes, and that's actually part of the grant that I would review, that has to be included.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we approve the consent items A through H.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
With the exception, I want to take me off the January 4th special meeting because I wasn't here, but I will.
I'm sorry.
Take them off. I can't approve minutes I wasn't here at. So.
Any opposed? Moving on. Next, we have public comments. No public comments. Hey, Mr. Saylor, the next is the superintendent's report.
Real quick, just you have your notification of personnel actions. Here's my activity report. Of course, during Christmas break, of course, snow, there's been a lot of things canceled, but I wanted to give you all an update on the things that I have participated in. I've also included for you all to look at is your 18-19 school calendar options. We're wanting to get those out so that we can start looking at possibly making some decisions on school calendar. I wanted to get your all's thought process on school calendar moving forward. And let me just preface this with one thing. Just remember now that construction on the roof and the HVAC system would need to take place hopefully as soon as we can. The first day of school is out. They're going to have to begin construction. I am emphasizing to them that we need to be able to start school the 1st of August. But now, the further we get pushed back, the further this school year gets pushed back, it's eating into your construction timeline, which we know that the HVAC unit, it's going to take into the fall for it to get done, but there's a lot of work there to be done in the summer months. So don't be surprised, even if we set a school calendar to start at a certain time, we may have to ask for a delay if there's weather issues in construction or whatever. There's just no way around that. I mean, hopefully we'll get the summer and we'll have 10, 11 weeks of wonderful weather. But there's just no way of knowing that. So that's one concern I have with the full fall break, but I know that's, everybody wants that full fall break. But just realize with construction and everything else, if we get pushed back and we have a full fall break and then we've got a long Christmas break and then spring break, just realize spring break may be something that's got to come off the books, because we definitely don't want to see next school year end June 15th, because I just think that that's detrimental. It's just not good for nobody. So those are some options out there. You all tell
So
me.
you've got fall break the week of October 8th through the 12th, right?
Well, there's 4 options.
I think there's like 4 different options there.
Oh, okay.
Some of them show all the fall break. We have one that doesn't show, just shows a Friday, Monday. I mean, if I was choosing this schedule, and of course everybody's going to hate me for this saying this, I would be choosing option 4, and I'd be choosing that calendar because of construction. that we try to start as early as we can, because once you give everybody fall break and something happens construction-wise, and let's say we can't start school until August 20th, then all of a sudden you can't go back and say, well, we're going to cancel fall break. Because once it's out there, it's gone. It's already done. But I'm willing to do whatever y'all want to. Now, next year, there's a whole different new process to this, right, Mr. Arthur? We got to form a committee next year that's involved with school and community members, and there's a whole different process. But this last year is really, it's a function of getting something out there to our school people just to see what they're thinking and trying to agree on a calendar. So I'm willing to do whatever y'all want to do. I want our employees to be happy. I want our students to be happy. Just know that we're in a very delicate time with construction beginning, school starting, those types of things.
Explain the differences, just kind of on option 3 and 4. Option 3, you don't go to school until August 7th. That gives us an extra 5 days of construction. But you have a full fall break there.
Yeah, I just know that LW always leans towards everybody wants that full fall break. So, I mean, I just put it there. Honestly, that's why option 4 gives you the most flexibility. That's why it gives you the most flexibility, because then you don't even have to start on the 1st or the 3rd or 7th or whenever.
Personally, and this is gonna make some people mad, I'd like to do away with fall break and start a week later. And I wanna challenge anybody that disagrees with this on this board to ride an afternoon bus route. Not a 30-minute route, but I've had a lot of bus drivers come to me and say, these little kids really get hot. And I know that doesn't do away with all the hot weather, but these preschoolers and these kindergartners and stuff, it's tough on them. And August is a hot month, so I am gonna ride a bus route this fall, or an afternoon August route to see for myself. But these bus drivers are packing coolers of water for these little children, because they get so hot. So personally, Jeff, my opinion, I'd like to back up the start of the week and do away with fall break. I know that's not gonna be popular with some of our staff, but we're already getting off 3 days at Thanksgiving. You know, we get some breaks in the fall.
And we can put an option 5 out there. And remember, y'all aren't voting on this tonight,
No,
because
well, I'm just giving you my
we've not
opinion.
even given our employees a chance yet to look at this. And I think we owe it to them
Yeah.
to look at it. And we can put another option out there with no fall break and starting later, which is basically option 4 with just the start time moved back.
That,
Yeah.
yeah. Personally, I'd like to do option 4 and start.
Go ahead, any question?
I was on 3, sorry, I was looking through.
Yeah.
So,
Biggest difference between 3 and 4 is
would
just,
be the,
and really, I
You
think,
get 2 full weeks for Christmas break. Some of these don't have that. You get a full week for spring break still.
yeah, we really talked about that Christmas break because of the fact that if you look at option 1, is that we would go to school all the way to December 21st. And the thought process behind that is that a lot of people this year said, well, that first week you go to Wednesday, then you're off Thursday and Friday, you're off the week of Christmas, and then you come back Wednesday or Tuesday the following week. Well, actually, we don't even get a week off. If we wanted to travel somewhere because of Christmas, most people want to be home during Christmas, so there's no full week there. So we even talked about just backing it up, go all the way to the 21st, not come back to school to January 7th to accommodate for that. So really the week after Christmas would be an entire week if somebody wanted to go on vacation or go south or
2
do
full
something.
calendar weeks.
At least you got 2 full calendar weeks. So I think that's just some things we need to get some feedback from our employees, but just some things you all be thinking about. And if you all have anything else you want me to put out there, we need to narrow down. I don't think we need to give them more than 3 or 4 options, and we can change up any one of these options. But I just want to hear some feedback from you all so that our employees or some of them watching tonight, they're going to know this is coming. So we want them to be able to get some feedback to you all. And then you all are going to have to approve a calendar. If we get it approved by March, is that February, March?
Yeah, February would be better.
If we can get it approved for February, I can bring it back to y'all in February. But you all, I mean, I can adjust one of those calendars to do exactly what you're talking about, LW, and others.
I mean, that's just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Right, I mean, I don't know. You all need to tell me.
Just a couple of comments. I know that a lot of families take their vacation the week of fall break, and they don't go as much during the summer. And I know that people really like that fall break option. And I would hate to see the whole week of fall break go, but I'm flexible. But I think
know
a lot of
last
people
year-
look forward to that.
It was about 50-50 last year. When we put it out there, about 50% want it, 50% doesn't matter to them. So it's one of those things that I don't think will make everybody totally happy.
You're not gonna make everybody happy either way.
But just
And you're
realize
like
that
me, we adjust to whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
it
do
doesn't
too. My
matter.
family
We adjust to whatever, but.
construction plays a huge role in this as we're thinking about this. And one
Well,
other-
and that's
yeah.
another advantage to backing it back a week. I mean, we're gonna be pushing, especially with the days we missed over the last week,
Yeah.
or two. You know, we missed a lot of days, and that's, like you said, that's gonna put us up in June, so that's gonna delay the start of the construction.
We've got 4 days left. If we miss 4 more days, we're into June.
Yeah, so.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I wanted to have a work day tomorrow.
But
I wanted to have a work day for staff tomorrow to try to save a day, but to be honest, I just could not in good conscience put our staff out there on these school parking lots. They're too bad. The roads are pretty good getting to them, but the parking lots are just too bad.
My road is bad.
My road's bad.
And well, that's main roads. Back roads are awful. I mean, I know that. So, I mean, we've got some days, we've got a few work days to play with, but now we're staring the first week of June right in the face for closing day. So just know that. One other issue I want to bring up to you all that I want you to start thinking about, and it's to have with school calendars, and that's with school start times. And I am really concerned that we have students that are being picked up before 6 o'clock. It's something that we say that, well, we don't have any other options, but now I think we do have other options. I know it's always been, and I'm an athletic-minded guy, and I know we want to be able to get school over with where we can get kids on buses and go play baseball and softball and get to our basketball games and stuff like that. But our first priority is all of our kids. And I am just concerned, we've got some small kids that are catching the bus at 5 and 10 minutes to 6. And I'm gonna ask you all to consider changing the start times, start and ending times. We start at 8 o'clock. I think it's too early. I think we can work with our bus schedule and with our schools. We don't need to be starting school before 8:15. We need to at least give 15 more minutes of the morning. We don't need to be picking anybody up before 6 o'clock. I personally wouldn't frown on it if we went to started at 8:30 every morning, which would push us back to 3:30. I know it's 30 more minutes, but I'm just putting that out there for you all to think about. We've got an awful lot of young kids that's catching the bus really, really early. And so it's something I want to think about. I'm working with Mr. Burkhart on that. We think actually that we can not pick anybody up before 6:15 and still have an 8:15 start. And that delays the dismissal of school to 3:15. It'd be 3:20 at the middle school and high school. We need to make an adjustment there because our high school and middle school kids are having to wait during the shuttle time too long. They need to go 5 additional minutes in the afternoon anyway. But I want y'all to be thinking about that. That is at the direction of the board. The board has the authority to set the beginning time and the ending time. Everything that goes on in between those hours, site-based council's control. But I really think it would be good for our kids. So if you all have any comments on the calendar, let's just do this. Send me an email, shoot it back to me. I'm not going to put anything out the next week. Jeremy and I'll put it out next week, and we'll get comments back, and we'll try to bring you maybe the top 2 or 3 choices, and then you all can decide what you want to do. And I'm sure you're going to get calls. Just get ready for it.
especially after what I said.
We would pay you an extra quarter for every call you receive this month on the school calendar, but I don't think that's legal for us to do. But
Are you
continue.
gonna do a survey again this year like you did last year?
Yeah, we'll put it out. You all, I'm gonna give you all till, let's say I'll give you all to Tuesday to send me any comments that you've got back on email, if there's anything else you'd like to see, and I know what yours was, LW, and I'll sort of look at option 4 and see if we can't. We probably do need, just honestly, it's probably naive of us at the time, now that we've missed out, these were done before we missed all this school. It's naive of us to think we can start August 1st. I mean, I just don't see it happening. So,
I mean, a year we didn't have 2 roofing projects in HVAC maybe, but this year it's
Yeah.
gonna be.
so you
Sure
all
don't
send
wanna
that
see
to
no
me.
roof weather.
Any comments, and then we'll get it to them next time. And just your thoughts, if you've got any thoughts on start and ending time, will be fine. Just last couple things. I put this little article in there in the KSA hotline, just they spotlighted Estill County Schools. We were spotlighted in the Kentucky Teacher here a while back. I know KDE sponsored us and, through one of their webinars and stuff. So there's a lot of people recognizing what we've got going on in our school district. Just wanted y'all to see that. And a reminder to you all that the KSBA Winter Conference is coming up. And that's March 2nd through the 4th. And as soon as you all get that information, you all make a determination on what you all want to do. Felicia will work with you all on getting those. I think most of you have been trying to go down like on Friday morning, staying Friday night, staying Saturday and coming back. It's whatever you all want to do. I guess it all depends on what the schedule is in terms of the hours that you're required to do. And I said really there wasn't an addition, and there's really not in a sense, but I did receive public notice today about the corrective action plan that was submitted for the landfill. I was in on a few of those meetings early on about the landfill and what the process will be in addressing the T-norm that was dumped there at the landfill. And I've been heavily involved in 2 meetings and have quite a bit of insight as to what the thought process was long before this corrective action plan come out. I know that there's a planned meeting, I think, at the high school in the auditorium one evening for public comment. But just to let you all know, nothing's really changed since I updated you all the last time that we were told that, of course, the T-norm is buried. It's buried pretty deep, and it's been the position of the environmental cabinet from day one. It's buried, leave it there. Don't take a chance of it being spread by having to move it. And so I personally, I would have had a hard time coming to you all and telling you that I felt like our kids was safe every day out there if I didn't think they were safe every day out there. And I know, of course, it raises questions. Sometimes everybody wants to talk about, well, why would we build the Career Tech Center there and some of those things. Listen, there, as you all know, if we had the money to build a brand new high school and middle school, and we had about $60 million, we could go build a brand new high school and middle school somewhere else. But we don't have the money. You're not going to get that type of settlement over this because of the way that it's come out. So, I mean, we're going to have school on that piece of property out there for many years to come. So if it's safe enough for our kids to go there every day, and I fully believe that it's safe enough for our kids to go there every day. I go out there, I'm out there 2 or 3 times a week. So I don't believe that it's dangerous for our kids to be there. And I know this is just part of the process that we have to go through, but I assure you that I have received no information from no agency that says that there is any issues whatsoever that we've been impacted by that illegal dumping on that facility. So I just wanted to fill you all in on that. I just got that letter today. So that's it for superintendent's report, and I don't know if any of the board members have anything, but.
You need a motion to adjourn? Need a motion. For a second. All in favor? Any
Did you
opposed?
bring the warrants to the vigilance? they upstairs?